We're live, I think. The 3, 2, 1 happened. Needle Pod, episode 1. My name's Paul. I'm half of your Needle Pod squad. We just discussed that offline and we like it. Joined by co-host Dr. Ellie Melrose. Tap in.
Hi, I'm Ellison Melrose, working with Paul. Excited to be here. Can't wait to chat about all things needling.
If you were a sound effect, like if I say tap in and you're only allowed to be a sound effect, what would you be?
That's a good question. I would say I'm like a bam, like where you get the big words
Yeah,
in the bubble. Yeah,
I
what
could
are
see
what
that.
are you?
Well, I think you could probably guess this, but it's tap tap or boink boink,
Yeah, that's
which is
you
really
for sure.
cute. My son, Aiden, right now likes to say boink boink. Like whenever he has to wipe his nose with a Kleenex, he just walks up to me, and goes boink boink, and like that is my child. Ellie, this needle pod is loosely formatted. This is quite casual. I feel honored that you're with me on this journey. I mean, I think we could say that we are highly experienced dry needling educators, but very amateur podcasters. So we're going to see how this goes. I told you I'm surrounded by an unhealthy number of wires right now for my mic and my headphones. And these are new headphones I got just for the podcast. I feel a little awkward with the shape and size of my head, and I have my ring light. But what's your
You're
setup
doing
look like
great.
over
You're
there?
doing great. I have my external camera that I think is doing like a filter. It's making me look quite nice, which
You
I
look great.
appreciate.
Yeah.
I have I've pivoted past the ring light itself, and now I just have like a rectangle light, and I charged it specifically for today because in the past I've had it die halfway through a podcast. So, but I would agree, I am a novice podcaster. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but don't know if anything will translate here today.
Well, you're very well spoken. I've been on several podcasts and I hate my voice. So this is a strange endeavor that we're doing, but I want to kick off with a needle specific question that likely has an impossible answer. How many needles? Well, first of all, how long have you been dry needling?
Yeah, I've been dry needling for 6 years. I say that loosely because I have dabbled with needles prior to my first needle course. I have experienced needling for about 17 years. So I was a high school athlete that got into the needles through a physical therapist of mine, and I saw how powerful it was. And so then in PT school, I was in California where we can't needle. It's a non-needling state at the moment. And so didn't learn it throughout PT school, did a little separate literature review on dry needling then. And then once I moved to Colorado, and I immediately got dry needling certified, but again had friends who were acupuncturists previously. And so I had played with tapping the needle in prior to that. So yeah, so I've been needling officially for just almost 6 years.
So
Long
6
answer.
years of official needling, and my impossible question that I'm so curious to hear your answer is, how many needles have you sent in
Yeah.
6 years' time?
So I was trying to think about that based off of my clinical hours. When I was previously at an in-network clinic, I was seeing about 15 patients a day, probably needling about 10 of those, like minimum, right? So 10 to 15 needling. Anywhere from 4 needles was probably the minimum I was doing because I was more heavy trigger point needling focused initially. So I was doing a little bit more pistoning and more needles, I think, than I've come out of that a little bit more. So anywhere from like 4 to 10 needles a person for the first 3 years of practice with needling. And I would say I was working, I don't know how many hours. Anyway, so I was way under assuming how many needles I have needled, and I was thinking it was anywhere from 20 to 30,000 needles. Which after discussing with you, maybe I'm underdosing what I've been doing, but I also kind of took into consideration the number of courses I've done over the past 4 years of teaching needling, or three almost 4 years there. Layered that in, and that was a anywhere from like 2,500 to 3,000 needles alone. So then I was like, I don't know. I don't know. It's a hard number to come up with. You're in the 6 figures, it sounds like, but you've been needling for a lot longer than I.
I love how seriously you took that question though.
I
It's
was
like
trying to do all the math.
you have a napkin or a whiteboard in front of you multiplying years of experience. I don't know the answer. Someone asked me that once, and just like you, I go back in my brain, full-time clinic days maybe more trigger point based, where it was not challenging to go through 20 to 30 needles on one patient in one session. And I mean, immediately the optic I have is not that this is an endorsement for how you should store your supplies, but we had the big, I think, 2 gallon size sharps containers. And when those filled up, we kind of stacked up the Costco boxes. I just remember, I think, 4 Costco boxes high of full sharps containers back in the day. And I mean,
How
we
many years was that worth of Sharps containers? 6 months?
probably, no, probably 18 months, maybe 2 years.
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
we weren't really proactive with our disposal. I mean, we just, when it got too high in the break room, we paid someone to come and take them. But I don't know. I think it has to be six figures because I mean the multi-pack needles come in 500 or 1,000, and I mean we could go through those pretty quickly. And I would love to know the actual number. I would love,
I
or
know.
just, or be more confident than the McDonald's, like 1 billion served or whatever. But
We need one of those clickers, like the Costco people have clicking you in and out, so every time you needle someone, you just click it.
so maybe in 2026 you could do that for us. Just count every needle that you send, and that'll give us
Perfect.
a better baseline.
Can't wait.
So speaking of 6 years of training, officially, formally getting training, I mean, you travel the country now teaching. You have been doing that for years. Do you remember what it was like? Do you remember yourself sitting like first course
I
student,
do.
have never held a needle? What was it like? Paint a picture of that.
Yeah, so first course was beginning of 2020, and I went with my husband, who's also a physical therapist. You know him well.
Love Brian.
He is very needle averse. So although he has, like, huge tattoos on his
Yeah,
shins,
you wouldn't
he
think.
wasn't, not that he has a phobia or anything like that, but he's like, "I will get needling done if I have an injury. Other than that, I could care less to get needled." Whereas I was very eager to be needled myself, I was just super excited to learn. So setting the stage, there was probably at least 30 clinicians in that course, so it was huge.
Big group.
Big group. It was a local course, so it was nice. I just commuted about an hour every single day there, so I didn't have to fly or anything like that. But our first demo, or our first time using the needle, we did it on our forearms. So we were, like, sitting there with our forearm on the table and put a needle in and watched, and there were a handful of people that did not enjoy that. I couldn't care less. I was so excited to just get my hand on a needle for the first time, of course, and so really excited. I was one of those people where I wanted to sit in the front of the room, be like that first table. That's how I was all through PT school. My husband was a back row bro. So we had to split the difference. So we were kind of in the middle of the room on the left side of the room. I remember all the details fondly. And I was the girl that would want to be the demo person for every single lab. So people weren't stepping up to the plate for that, and I was like, "Oh, I guess I'll go again. Don't mind that." So I probably got demoed on, like, 4 times throughout the weekend. It was a 3-day course, a lot of needles. Again, it was more trigger point training. They started layering a little bit more of eStim usage, but it was with the point stimulator, so kinda like holding it on there. So that alone, I mean, 3 days in the clinic, a lot of pistoning. I probably accumulated, uh 200 needle just in that, weekend. Yeah, I thought it was very fun. I could have kept going after day 3. My husband was over it by the end, so he was not appreciating all of the needles every day. So, yeah, it was fun. I loved it. And then since then, I kinda started implementing it immediately in the clinic, and I was one of those people that they had sold me on that point stimulator during the course, so I bought the point stimulator with me, and I bought it there and brought it to the clinic and started using that. So I did layer in a little bit of e-stim right off the bat, but as you know, with those point stims, it's a little bit challenging to get full dosage of e-stim. So,
It's where we all
um,
started, though. I mean, it's so fun to learn with and to play around with, but man, is it annoying as hell to like
yeah,
treat with it unless you are very, very annoyingly precise, where you're going to spend like 30 to seconds to 5 minutes stimming one needle by
yeah,
hand. But
yeah.
yeah,
And I was very convinced that, like, once the needle started, so if it was like an asynchronous contraction or something like that, that once it became synchronous, that it was cured, right? And now we know that that's probably not what's actually happening with that thing.
Could just be needle position. Man, I remember taking the course, even like previous life, different uniform, teaching all that stuff, and yeah, the asynchronous recruitment smoothing itself out. And I do think we mess around with motor thresholds, but I think we learn now that it's just, man, if you adjusted the needle position slightly, that's probably what's going to change the stim response.
Yeah, definitely. So I have evolved my practice since then, but yeah, that was my first course.
Man, I
Are you going to talk
love the
about?
paradox of you and Brian. I mean, I can picture you getting on the
Yeah,
table constantly. Every group needs that. I mean, teaching a group of folks that when it comes down to like, give me a posterior hip and there's no eager volunteers. I mean, that's makes for a tough demonstration because the person that ultimately gets on the table is a little reluctant, but man, it's nice to have someone like you who is eagerly jumping on the table, can handle it really well, because that,
yeah.
especially surrounded by a group of folks that are learning needling for the first time.
Yeah, I think the hardest part with that, and we'll talk about maybe our teaching a little bit later as well, but people wanna see it, you know? So it's hard to be the posterior hip demo and not see it. I think the beautiful thing about the how courses have evolved now is that we have videos of all of them that they should have been watching prior to that and stuff, so people are a little bit less like, they don't mind being the demo because of that as well, but I think people learn so differently, and a lot of people, sometimes you just have that crew that are visual learners and wanna see everything be done. I'm a tactile learner, so I'm like, put the needle in the tissue, and I'll feel what you're doing and go from there, so
Yeah, in PT school, they had us take this not personality test, but like this learning style test, and that's how they grouped us for our cadaver labs. And our group were the accommodators, which,
they put all the accommodators in one group, wouldn't you wanna, like,
yeah,
separate
I mean, because all I remember is we don't necessarily go step by step and read the textbook. We kind of learn by
as you
our
go?
mistakes. So imagine your first lab at PT school. You have a sharp scalpel in your hand. You're trying to assess tissue quality and find rectus femoris, and man, several times that semester of like, I don't think our cadaver has a rectus, and nope, you kind of just cut right through it. Man,
That's funny.
I would have loved to see Brian send that first forearm needle. That was such a brutal way, especially for someone anxious to needle. But that's how we did it back in the day. Is like, all right,
Yeah,
you needled a fruit, now sit down, needle your own forearm, a pretty sensitive spot, and sit there
yeah,
looking at it. And I mean, at this point, we don't do that for lots of good reasons. But I almost wonder if we did that just to see if anyone was going to faint. Because if someone was going to
yeah,
faint, it
they
was
would do it
needling their
then.
own forearm, first needle.
Yeah. I think Brian was pretty timid about it, so he, like, tapped the needle in, took it out pretty immediately, and disposed of it, whereas I was, like, fishing around a little bit more, so yeah.
I wish Brian could step in. I mean, he's 6'7", very muscular dude, surfer bro vibes, tattoos everywhere. Not the guy that you're gonna like think is gonna pass out
Those are
because
the ones though, dude. They're the ones that you gotta watch, I'm telling you.
I picture the gingers, the freckles, the
That too.
phenotype of the
Yeah.
fainter. So, where are you teaching next? Where are you off to this
Yeah, I'm
month?
I'm headed to Boise, Idaho. I leave on Friday, so I'm teaching lower body dry needling then. There's still seats available, but,
Boise?
uh
Boise is beautiful.
yeah. I know, I haven't been since high school when I used to compete in skiing. We would go up to Boise a little bit, but yeah, I'm excited to get out there. I have some time in the afternoon on Friday to go explore a little bit before I can help set up in the clinic, and so try and do that on Friday, and then I'm back in Fort Collins for the first pelvic floor dry needling course on the 22nd and 23rd of this month, so I'm really excited.
Sweet.
First of all, I taught my first
Because
home
yeah,
course a couple weeks ago, and it was nice to just be in my space. Yeah, but and then it's the first pelvic needling course, so it'll be great. There's some good faculty that'll be there with me too, so it'll be a fun time. What about you? Where are you going?
first ever pelvic kneeling course in Fort Collins. That's going to be a banger. And I mean, I'm sure future episodes that's what you do in the clinic. I mean, you needle lots of stuff all day, every day. You teach all the other stuff, but your true expertise is when the Venn diagram overlap of pelvic health and dry needling comes together, which is that course. So I won't be there. I really want to. I really want to, but I really
Yeah.
I don't
I mean,
necessarily need to have myself needled, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna use it, but I really wish I could come.
I know. I wish you could too. Maybe someday you'd bring Jen along, signing her up for you.
She'd love that. We found a pelvic PT after kiddo number 2.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
Same weekend as you, I'm heading to Austin, Texas.
Mm.
Leander is actually just outside. And I mean, I'm always fascinated. Sometimes people ask, and early on, I guess I started teaching in like a TA role 2011 or 2012, and then started leading some courses 2014. But the Con Ed, like behind the scenes of the Con Ed life, I think people just think you show up 8 a.m. on Saturday, do the thing, and then you're home an hour later. And I mean, when you're in Fort Collins, that's a beautiful thing that you probably are. But what does it look like? What does a travel day look like? The course starts this weekend on a Saturday. What does a Friday travel day look like for you?
Yeah, so I try, and one thing that's been kind of ingrained in my head is getting that first flight out on Friday is helpful so that there's no delays or anything like that. So I try and get one of the first flights out to wherever I'm going, and that usually means a 3 a.m. wake up.
Yeah,
6 to 7 a.m. flight takeoff. I live about an hour and a half from the airport. So if I don't leave 3 hours prior to that, I'm gonna be cutting it close a little bit.
same.
Get out to the airport as fast as possible. I have downgraded my parking areas. I used to park in, like, the most expensive lot that was right there so I could just run off the airplane on my way home. I like a little bit of a walk, so, I walk into the airport, I stop at the Centurion Lounge, I get
Lovely.
some snacks and some some free coffee and things like that. Usually actually rewind, I have to stop at Starbucks on the way because I'm starving by the time I wake up, so I can't make it to the airport. Brian will wait until he gets to the Centurion Lounge, and he's befriended the omelet guy, so he loves the omelets there. But yeah, usually I kinda stop in the lounge, hop on my flight. Depending on where I'm going, I try and buy nonstop flights wherever I can just because it makes it smoother and you don't have to mess with if there's any delays or anything like that. So, get to wherever I'm going by early afternoon because then something that separates us from some of the other divisions is we like to set up the night before, and I think that's saved us a lot from having issues with how the weekend goes, so we usually all head into the clinic whenever they're done for the day, which on Fridays is anywhere from 3 to 5. Stop in, I'll help them get their tables all set up, make sure we have all of the equipment that we need. There have been some times um, that we don't have sharps containers, and so I've needed to, like, head out to the store and get sharps containers or gloves or something like that the night before. And then we start bright and early on Saturday, get to the clinic by 7:15, really wrap up the day between usually around 5 o'clock and end it with that nice workout, then go through the weekend, try and day 2, again, wrapping up, but I say between 4 and 5. I'm a little bit more of a faster talker than you, and we might take a shorter lunch on Sundays, and then I hop on a flight anywhere between if I can make smaller airports, I can usually get there for, like, a 6:30 flight or something like that, but sometimes it's, 10 PM, then I get back to the airport by midnight, and then I have an hour and a half drive home, so, yeah, it's long,
And
it
then
makes for a tiring Monday.
patience on Monday.
No, I have learned the hard way of not booking patients on Monday, and the biggest thing is I have 2 kids, as you know, so it's not like I can sleep in. I do the normal, wake up, breakfast, get them to school on time, and then have a little bit lower paced Monday. So, yeah, but I love it. The hardest part for us, I think, with Brian teaching as well is we're alternating weekends. So when we're home for a weekend, we're not off duty at all. Like we are fully parenting and stuff like that. So I think that's the hardest part of the travel schedule is actually the weekends off.
Yeah. I love it too, and I think we do it because we love it. There's something very energizing about being around groups of new folks, learning a technique and just the workout, just the inspiration. The pros are greater than the cons. But yeah, the glamour of your Centurion Lounge and your flying around the country lifestyle has some cons and the allure wears off pretty quick. Because for me, my wife only works in the office 2 days a week, but Monday is one of those days. So just
Mm,
like you said, I'm getting back through the door at home midnight or 1 a.m. And then Monday is daddy daycare, which I love. Like, not a big workload. It's kind of like a Saturday, like a day off. But we have an 8-month old and a 2.5-year old. So you're not
fully
off
in it. Yeah.
and the energy is not always high for daddy daycare, but man, the way you balance the schedule, because I mean, how many courses a year do you typically teach?
Between 12 and 15. I was looking back over the past couple years and definitely felt like more when we were originally, coming on. I think that that first year was a shock, but then yeah, I think I've settled into that 12 to 15 range is nice. And Brian's teaching about 20 courses a year. So he's gone
Yeah.
a lot more frequently than I am. So it just, yeah, makes it tough. But
So yeah, if you're doing 15, he's doing 20. Remove holiday weekends. You guys basically are teaching as a family, or one of you is teaching basically every non-holiday weekend, which
yeah,
which is a lot. I mean, I always say, I mean, I wouldn't be able to do what I do without Jen. And I mean, the only really nice thing about our whole dynamic is that I've been doing the Con Ed thing from the beginning. It's not like I started teaching and kind of pivoted professionally. It's kind of funny to think back because she bought me. This is like 2012, whenever we first started dating. She's gonna hate that I don't remember the date that we. But I was like, I was TAing a course, like flying to Las Vegas for the weekend, and she like got me a little, like a bath bag, like that you carry your toiletries in.
I bought one of those for Brian when he started traveling.
Well, and I love it. I still have it, but in my head, I'm like, oh, this is silly. I'm not going to travel that much. Like, I'm just going on I'm going to go TA a course for a weekend. I'll be right back. Like, I don't need new luggage. And
Here you are.
she reminds me of that. Like, that was the start of, for me, I mean, 20 to 25 per year for like a decade. So it's just
Yeah.
crazy. It's just been the lifestyle, but I love the young energy that you all have. I mean, you've been with our division from the beginning, so you definitely have put the most miles on the road and the biggest footprint in our division. And now we're kind of growing. We have a few more leads, but fascinating stuff. I think the biggest frustration I have for you personally, professionally, is that you fly
Nervous.
Southwest.
Oh my gosh. I was like, "Where's this going?" I know.
Man, you could make it so
Brian
much
told
easier on
me
yourself.
Brian told me, he was like, "You can switch to United, but I'm not going to." So, he's the rate limiting step for sure, but I think that pivot will come shortly. Probably, I think if I start the next year with that. Side note, we're opening a second clinic, and so I need to
I
get a new
know.
credit card, so I might get a
Those are the
United, maybe I'll get a
decisions.
new United card and rack
Now is
up
the
those
time.
points.
26 is coming. If you have a new card,
Yeah.
fascinating.
So, yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Where is the coolest place you've taught? Your favorite place that you have taught? I guess it doesn't have to be the coolest spot, but
Yeah, I was kind of thinking through that, and I struggle with when I'm gone for the weekend, I struggle with kind of getting out there. Sometimes I just in my normal grind of like, I get to the hotel, I go to the clinic, I come back to the hotel. But one place I didn't do that was Bozeman. So I think that was my favorite place that I've gone to visit. I had a smaller course there, so I didn't have this huge like stress of a big course needing to have all the, you know,
yeah.
everything sorted, and so I was able to, like, explore downtown and get out a little bit more. It was freezing, so that was a downside, but I, like, was able to go to a little coffee shop and that sort of thing, so that was probably my favorite place. Yeah,
Montana's a vibe. That's a good choice.
yeah, but yeah.
What other side of the coin? What is your least favorite place? Well, you can answer this however you like. Your least favorite place that you had to go teach, or just the biggest train wreck of a course you've ever had. Let's dig in a little bit. This can't just be a
So I had
fluffy pod.
I'm not gonna I don't have any places to bash, like, I think I've traveled a lot of places, and there's nothing that has been like, "Oh, that state was awful," you know? But I do have 2 courses that came to mind with this topic for very different reasons. The first time was one of my first courses that, you had handed the baton over to me. You were there still, but I was leading most of the weekend. I was doing the song choices, I was doing all that stuff. So, it was that course down in Texas where we got through the banana lab. and a girl tells us that she's in the wrong place, and she's a high school student that was trying to take a
There for a
CPR
CPR?
certification.
That was amazing. I
Yeah,
remember it so polite, and she waited for the break, like, she made it through, like, an hour and a half of dry needling lecture, which I assume was over her head, and I
yeah.
assume she was thinking that this was odd start for a CPR class, but she didn't leave until the
No,
first break.
I think it could have gotten a lot worse if she had stayed. It was funny though, because you guys were searching for her name tag, you were contacting Alan, you were trying to figure out where she was missed in the, background. I think that was maybe not like a train wreck or anything like that, but it was a one of the funniest experiences I've had. But then my kind of different side of the coin, I was teaching in Florida and I had issues with my flight there. And so I wasn't able to rent a car. I had to cancel my car rental. And so I was Ubering places. I get to the course at 7:50, the site at 7:15. I'm setting up everything. And then I realize I don't have my bag of cables, all of my cords to connect to everything.
Dongle kit.
Yes.
If you present in any capacity, you know how terrifying it can be if you do not have your dongles with you.
Yeah. And so I like to be there when everyone shows up and everything, but I had to Uber back to my hotel and then Uber back to the clinic. So that was a very stressful, almost wreck of a situation, but I was able to get back. I got back in time for the 8 a.m. kickoff. So I think that was the closest I've been to like a train wreck situation. For me, I just like to be uber organized and have everything
I would say you're actually more organized than I am, so I'm sure you only made that mistake once,
once.
for
Yes, never
sure.
again. Yeah.
What's interesting, if I ask myself the same question of what was the worst course, it didn't actually go down, and maybe it's a good story to wrap up episode 1 because this was preparing for the very first ice course. It was in October of 2022.
And
First
finished?
course was going to be in Oviedo, Florida, and I forget the name of the hurricane, but it was basically a direct hit on Orlando. And I mean, we don't cancel courses. And I mean, I was not going to be the guy canceling the very first ice needling course. I mean, I think there's only like 7 or 8 people on it. So, I mean, just like you said, it was a 3-day course. So it's Thursday, like 3 a.m. I'm driving to the airport. I'm going to get on the plane, even though you check the news and it's like, oh, it's upgraded to a
Stage
stage
5.
5 and it's like nope, it's going to pretty much direct hit Orlando, like it's not shifting paths. So I'm like voice texting with Alan and Jeff and I'm like, do you think we should ping the host one more time and just see what's going on? And they did. Steven at B Physical Therapy, awesome host, great guy. He was still ready to send it. He's like, yeah, we might not have electricity, and I think the worst thing is like we might have like 12 inches of flood water in the clinic, but I mean, we'll figure it out. And I think with that response, I didn't want to be the guy, but I was. I'm like, do you think we should do this?
Another time.
So luckily, he was free the very next weekend, and so was I. And I mean, there was only like, we lost 3 of those 7. So it was like I flew to our first course to teach like 4 folks, but it wasn't in a hurricane. And fascinating start to the ice journey. Cause I mean, obviously you get used to bad weather and cancellations, but I have never been in like the middle of a hurricane. I actually changed my flight. Instead of connecting through Salt Lake, I connected in Atlanta. And my brain was, okay, if the flight gets canceled, I can drive from Atlanta to Oviedo. I can't drive from Salt Lake. So that's how committed I was. But ultimately, we pulled the plug. And I mean,
Yeah.
Jeff Moore, CEO of ICE and just has been on the Con Ed trail for so long, has stories like that. I think he was in Louisiana teaching in the middle of a hurricane at one point, and
Sounds like Jeff.
fun to talk about years down the road, but probably unsafe. I'm glad for the sake of the participants that we didn't go through with that one.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a very unique story, once in a lifetime.
For
Yeah.
sure. I mean, I'm originally from Wisconsin. I went to PT school in Colorado. Now I'm in Seattle. Like, I've never lived in a geography with severe, like, hurricanes or earthquakes or, like, the really scary stuff. We got tornadoes in Wisconsin, which I was terrified of as a kid, but never a place like that.
I think the alligators and the hurricanes, that I can't do Florida because of that.
Florida wasn't ever high on the list, but beautiful place to visit.
Yes. Great for needling courses.
All right, Ellie, it's our first podcast. How are we going to dismount this thing?
That's a great question.
What parting words do you have for our audience?
Just throwing me into it, huh? I think, well, first of all, join us on a course if you've never needled before. Hopefully, you're here to get some needling knowledge. Yeah, if I would say the biggest thing that I've learned over the years of needling and what I want people to kind of take into their practice are things about never kind of discontinuing the excitement about anatomy. I think that's the biggest thing. So it's not even about needling skills or anything like that. But I think one thing I've learned from you is that you can always get a little bit nerdier when it comes to anatomy. And so I think that's something that I want people to kind of take away from this. And maybe we'll do some cool anatomical debates over the next couple podcasts or something like that.
That's
That'd
a
be
great
fun.
idea. Because first of all, we will continue to do this as long as there's interest. It's going to be casual and loose. We'll talk research, we'll talk clinical questions, and I mean future episodes once we get this up and running. Hopefully, get some questions coming through from you all. But yeah, that was a lovely point on
Thank
no
you.
notice. Cause yeah, I think I agree of like what looking back at my own edification, I guess I read a lot of research, but I mean, and we need that. Like, is what we're doing working or not? Are there better ways to do it? But I think just like the needle skill, like both in the clinic, but how I teach it is probably deepened the most when I sidebar and I get sucked into a funnel of like imaging research or like cadaveric research, which isn't even necessarily overtly physical therapy. It's just like nerdy scientists looking at anatomic anomalies and like different, like, not just gross anatomy, but more nuanced, fine tuned, like subregions of anatomy. And it does level up your needles for sure. And I mean, I share what I have on courses, but I think that self investigation is for sure the best way to be better with your needles.
Yeah, I agree.
Love it. Beautiful work.
Awesome.
Dr. Ellie Melrose, thanks for your time. We'll catch you
Thanks
on the
for
next
having me.
one.
I'm excited for this
Catch you on Needlepod 2,
squad.
Needlepod Squad.